Welcome, everyone. I want to share with you a roundup of recent trademark news. Of course, it's been a hectic time in life, in business, in the world, with all of the things happening related to the economy and the pandemic and healthcare. I hope that you are safe and um, doing okay as you listen to this. But I want to share some recent news. And of course, it's a little bit different than some of my other recent trademark news roundups because a lot of it is about those newsworthy topics. So, first thing is the Trademark Public Advisory Committee met online for the first time ever uh, in mid April, on April 17th. And there was some valuable information in the presentations provided during that public meeting. I watched it all on my computer screen. And as one might expect, the number of filings and the anticipated revenue at the Patent and Trademark Office are down fairly considerably over the last few weeks. And the projections are that that will remain the case for at least some time, maybe even decrease further. As a result of filings being down, that of course has an impact in the amount of fees that the US Patent and Trademark Office and revenue that they generate. And that may lead to hiring freezes and other things. Now, the interesting thing is that because filings have been growing for the last 10 years, and because the trademark application and registration process takes some time, there still is, even if filings fell off a cliff, there still would be lots of applications in the queue for the Patent and Trademark Office to work on for many, many months and even years to come. And in fact, the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board has seen an increase in filings over each of the last few years and is really quite backed up given the number of filings. So even a decrease in the number of opposition or cancellation or appeal filings at the Trademark Trial and Appeal will take quite a while to actually make an impact on the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board because they have so many filings and cases stacked up from the last few years. Just ballpark figures that I've calculated on my own looking at the filings, it looks like filings are down about 15 to 20% right now for the month of April. We'll have to see, again, whether that continues, whether it gets worse, whether the decline shrinks. Nobody knows at this point, of course, but I can tell you that many trademarks are still being filed. Okay. In April, over 20,000 trademarks have been filed. I know I've got lots of clients still launching new things or protecting things that they were already doing. In fact, our clients have filed dozens of marks in April, and they've received more than 80 trademark registrations already this year. So registrations are still being printed, they're still being issued, they're still being mailed. The process is still continuing. Many of the examining attorneys were already working from home at the US Patent and Trademark Office, so they were already prepared for this type of remote work. In other trademark related news, I've spoken before about the number of coronavirus related trademark filings and how most of those will fail. Despite my warnings, people continue to file them every single day. Things like I survived coronavirus, or things related to masks with very descriptive or generic names, things that will be virtually impossible to register and virtually impossible to protect or enforce against somebody. So before you run out there and file for something that you think is great and creative related to a coronavirus theme, I recommend you talk to experienced counsel. One interesting trademark story that was in the news recently comes from the company 3M. Now, they make a lot of equipment, science equipment, healthcare equipment, and masks, and they actually filed a lawsuit against some resellers of masks who were reselling them at exorbitant prices. And part of the claims in that related to infringement and unauthorized use of the 3M trademark. So that's an interesting angle on that dispute. We'll have to see what happens. Of course, courts are slowed down. Litigation takes time anyways in a normal environment. So I'm not sure what the latest status is of that case. It was just filed within the last few weeks. So those are some of the things that I'm keeping track of in the world of trademarks. Of course, lots of businesses, as I mentioned, are still filing things. Sometimes they're related to what they've traditionally been doing. Sometimes it's because of a pivot and they're launching a new product or a new name to move online or deal with this new environment that at least faces us for the short term, possibly long term future. If there's other stories in the news you'd like to hear me talk about or comment on, leave me a comment or direct message or tweet at me at TM for Small Biz, and let's chat about it.